I've decided to make a video in relation to my uh, upcoming surgery, just so you can get a feeling for what's going through my mind and the reasons why I want to do this and why I think it's something that would help me in the long run. I want to start out with a little bit of history with my endometriosis. I explained a little bit of it on my GoFundMe page about what endometriosis is, but essentially it's when the lining that is inside your uterus that usually sheds every month during your menses grows outside of the uterus and in other parts of your body. It can be found in any part of the body, but typically it's found in the abdominal cavity. With past surgeries I've had, that it's been in my bowels, my bladder, all sorts of other places. I don't know why I'm so nervous doing this. But I was first diagnosed when I was 14, but I've had it since I started my menses when I was about 10 or 11, in between there. Started having problems when I was about 12. Really heavy bleeding. Tried all sorts of different birth controls. And I've been on some form of hormonal therapy from about 12 years old till I think I stopped taking hormones in 2012. And the reasons why I stopped taking them was because they made my depression worse. And then after years and years of taking them, they didn't really help. I would still have really heavy periods and they would be painful. I'm not doing this very well in a strictly chronological order. I'm just kind of shooting from the hip here. But they put me on birth control. Didn't really work. I'm still having super irregular periods. Finally, when I was 14, after they did my first surgery, they put me on Cinerel. And I was on Cinerel from about age 14 to about, I'd say 20. On and off. Technically, you're only supposed to use it for 6 months at a time because it puts you in false menopause, but also raises your testosterone level, and it can lead to osteoporosis with long-term use. But that was the only thing that was working in stopping my periods at that point. But it was very expensive. So the reason why I was kind of on and off it was because my parents couldn't always afford it with their insurance, or I'd have to wait, a month. It was a nose spray, and I hated it, but it worked. But my freshman year of college, I stopped taking it. I was in a mindset of, I was in college, and at that point in my life, I felt guilty for having all these medical problems and being a burden to my parents. So I didn't want to, well, first off, it was a poor college student. I couldn't really afford it, and I didn't want to ask my parents for help, and so I went without until I got really, really sick. My next surgery, I remember my freshman year, I just remember, bleeding for months at a time. And the longest period I've ever had is 4 months. But usually on average, even with medication, if I don't have, if I'm not doing a menopause drug, I'll be bleeding for, about a month. It's pretty standard for my periods. Sorry if this grosses people out, but I'm just trying to be real. Because this is what my life has been like. Being constantly anemic and constantly in pain. And I started developing cysts. The last surgery I had, they did an ultrasound, oh, you have a cyst. And so now I have those. I don't know when that started. But anyway, backtrack. I just was having horrible pain throughout college, and and I went to a doctor in Rexburg, and he kind of disregarded my pain. He knew I had endometriosis, but he's like, oh, it's just irritable bowel syndrome. And he tried putting me on another medication that I'd already been previously prescribed by another doctor when I was in high school, that I knew didn't work. So I went to a different doctor, and he listened to me. And first he tried a couple of options. He first did, just regular, what is it, the shot, Depo-Provera, which is just pure progesterone. And yeah, didn't really do much. Same thing, kind of, really long periods. At this point, I now continually take iron even when I'm not bleeding. But that's something I started a couple years ago, just because I just was getting anemic too much. But that didn't really help, and at that point in time, I was kind of suffering from depressive symptoms. Oh, sorry, my nose itches, I'm sorry. And so eventually I'm like, well, it's not really working. And so we explored the option of me having another surgery. And so they went and did a surgery. This was back in 2006, I believe. And they went in there, and it was really bad. Like, there's different levels of endometriosis, and I think it was at a stage 3. And the first surgery I had, I was at a stage 3. So endometriosis never really goes away. Like, it always comes back. So most treatment options for endometriosis are done with the intent of just kind of as a stopgap. But they went in there and they're like, well, there's so much scar tissue, so much damage in there. If I did any lasering away, it would just create more scar tissue. And so, just closed me back up. My bowel was glued to my uterus. And said, well, we'll do another surgery and we'll put you on Lupron. Lupron is the same chemical, essentially, of Cinerel, which I had previously taken. But in an injection form. And so they did that. And so when they did another surgery 6 months later, my uterus, before it was like triple in size, it was back down to a normal level. And they were able to, do some more work. And so at that point, they put an IUD in. And that was in 2006. And with the IUD, I still had pain, but I didn't bleed. And so that was kind of nice. So, at least scar tissue wasn't forming. But I think it's the IUD is what, I know a lot of people who have IUDs, like this happened to my sister. She had to get it removed because it was causing cysts for her. And I think that's why I have cysts now. But I had that in for 4 years. And even though it hurt, I was just, like, glad not to be bleeding. But then I got it I was like, well, at around, I think it was 2010 or 11, I was coming up to the point where I needed to get a new one in. Sorry. And so they removed it and put a new one in, but it perforated my uterus. And so I started super heavy bleeding, like, and hemorrhaging. But I didn't have insurance at the time. So there wasn't really anything I could do about it. I couldn't really go to get it surgically removed. Even just going to the doctor to, like, get the ultrasounds was just super expensive. So it just kind of sat in there. And, so they were doing x-rays, and eventually it finally passed. I don't know how. I mean, I was passing huge, massive clots. So they're more than likely, it might have just passed in there, and the passage of blood was so huge that I wouldn't have felt it. But who knows? Maybe it's floating around in my brain, and I don't know. Because I know that IUD is one that happens when they perforate uterus. They can sometimes wander to other places, but who knows. At that point, I was like, I am done with hormones. Hormones, they just made my depression worse. They made my anxiety worse. They weren't really, really, really effective. I gave one last shot with the ads for about 6 months, and it was just terrible, and I hated it. Didn't really do much for the pain and bleeding either. So I got new insurance, and so I decided to get another surgery. At this point, this is my 4th surgery, laparoscopy. And I don't know if I've clarified this before, but laparoscopy is when they burn away the scar tissue. And so they did it again. It's pretty bad. Couldn't really afford to go to the doctor after the fact to kind of go over the results. And at that point, I'm just like, I'm just prepared to deal with things. I don't want an IUD. I don't want hormones. Like, I'm just going to try and tough it out. And I've done that for the past 3 years, but it's just, getting progressively worse and worse. And I can feel the cysts, since my period is very irregular, there will be points in times where I can feel the cysts forming. And usually they pop about around the time when I'm menstruate. But it's irregular. Sometimes I won't bleed for 3 months, and then all of a sudden I'll have a 3-month-long period. So all that prefacing, my reasons for having surgery. The reasons why I want to have surgery. 1, this surgery is an excision. What they do is they cut out the nodules of scar tissue rather than lasering it away. And the analogy that the doctor used was, in a field of dandelions. Yeah, you can cut off the flowers, but there's still that root system. And so if you don't get the root system out, it's just always going to come back. And doing my research on the excision, it's about an 85% success rate. Another reason is that I want to do this is probably my last option to preserve my fertility. And I'm like, Becca, why are you worrying about this? You're not married, you've never, and with endometriosis, a lot of people with endometriosis are infertile. Like, you're just trying to, like, plan ahead for something that might not even happen. And even if you did get married, you might not get pregnant, and, you could adopt, so why is this such a big deal to you? And it's something I am trying to let go of, but for me, part of my identity, something that I've always wanted, is to be a mom. And I've always wanted to have that experience of being pregnant and having a child. And I know if I adopted a child, I wouldn't love it any less, and it would be my own flesh and blood, because I have a tender heart. And I watch those commercials, about adopting children in Africa. I'm like, I want to adopt all the children. Same thing with, animals too. If I had unlimited money and funds, I'd want to, adopt every child there was, because when I see a child suffering in need, I want to extend love. But I'm still kind of stuck in this idea that this is the only thing that would preserve my fertility. This surgery is also, I feel, kind of like a last resort kind of thing, beyond hysterectomy. And even a hysterectomy won't be completely effective, because I've done research, and a lot of people who do get hysterectomies in relation to endometriosis, they still have pain, because with endometriosis, since it grows in other areas besides your uterus, if you don't remove the stuff that's outside the uterus, it's going to grow with every with your hormonal fluctuations. And that's not really going to stop until menopause. And even then, you still have hormones. It's just a lesser amount. So you're going to be in pain regardless. So I want to have this surgery so I can cut out everything that is causing the pain, and hopefully that'll be a reduction in my symptoms. Part of me is scared that they'll go in there and be like, oh yeah, it's a lost cause, we're just going to take everything out. But hopefully that's not the case. I don't know, I'm scared. But at this point, I'm just done with things that don't work. And that's, yeah, I have all these, friends reaching out to me who either suffer from endometriosis or other similar issues like PCOS or, other issues, or just cysts in general, saying, you should try this, you should try this. And I'm like, I've already tried that and it didn't work, or it's not something that's sustainable. I can't put myself through false menopause, indefinitely and get osteoporosis. So I know this is kind of long winded, kind of shooting from the hip, really kind of disjointed and everything. Um, I just wanted you to people, I guess my people mainly seeing this are going to be my Facebook friends. That's where I'm going to post it. But I just want you to know what my history is and why I think I'm I'm at the end of my rope here with this. And with not having it being covered by insurance, that's been a big stressor. Then I got hit by that car a couple months ago, and I'm still having to deal with that. And I just found out today that I'm going to have to get a lawyer for that because they're going to stop. They apparently have a limit of how much you can spend on treatment, which I think is ridiculous. Anyway, any money that could be donated to help me have this surgery would be greatly appreciated. It's not like I'm, asking for people to cover all of it. I've saved about $1,000 of my own money, which is kind of a big deal for me considering I don't have a huge income. I had 2 jobs at one point, and that kind of helped me a bit to get things saved up. But yeah, I'm nervous and I'm excited about the surgery. But yeah, yeah, anything you could do to help would be great. I've already had tons of super generous people donating things to me, and I truly, truly appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. I only have 700 left for the surgery itself. I'm still not. They haven't called me to reserve the hospital. Most with my new insurance, I don't know what the hospital fee is. With my old insurance, it was just $100, but it might be more expensive in this one. But we'll see. But anyway, hope this is not super annoying and crappy. And I just feel like I feel kind of bad asking for help, for the second time in a year, with the whole cruise thing. But this is something that I feel like is a little bit less frivolous than the cruise. But the cruise was something that was amazing and wonderful and really helped me realize a lot of things. So, but yeah, I need this surgery. Please. Please, give me money. Okay. I'm going to stop this video because I'm a weirdo. Okay, bye.